Hey everyone, Robert Lewis here. Welcome to our 37th episode of Brew Talk with Mr.Beer. I think I was off last time. I had to go back and count the episodes. This is episode number 37. So now that we're back on track, holidays are over, getting back to things. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, tune in today. Appreciate you joining us. Before I dive into our topic today, I know we have a lot of new brewers, a lot of new people out there. We do this series about once a week, try to talk about an interesting tip, a tidbit, something about home brewing. We're going to get Ashley and Zach back on here shortly to really drop some good brewing knowledge on you guys. So if you have any questions or anything like that, shoot us an email, comment on one of the posts, send us a chat on the website, let us know I'd like to learn more about this, and if we've done the video already, we'll make sure to send you the link, and if we haven't, then we'll make sure to get in the queue for some videos to do in the future. So before we get started, talk about what I'm drinking today. No, it's always an anticipation. Pecan porter has been aging for a while. Not too bad. The pecan flavor is really mellowed out a little bit, I think. I know it's something I think we added it to the website that, and Zach also said, if you want more pecan flavor, just up the amount that you're using, pecans, whatever we call it, up the amount that you're using, and that will obviously impart more flavor into the beer. So it's kind of one of those ones that we're still always playing with and testing with and stuff like that. All right, so today's topic is one that we've seen a lot in the Facebook group, and Ashley was asking me, she thought it'd be a good video that I talked about. So it's basically how to take a sample from your LBK when your beer is done. So obviously, we get a lot of new brewers coming in, and that's a question we get quite often. So we want to give kind of some tips and the best practice for how to do that and be sanitary and keep things fresh and clean so you don't get an infected batch in your beer, which will ruin everything. So when you're looking at our instructions, we talk about like the taste test, how you determine when your beer is finished. So basically, you take a sample from your fermenter. If it tastes like flat beer, then you are good to bottle. There are probably a few things that we should note a little more in there, so we'll work on kind of updating those as we go, but how to sanitize afterwards, stuff like that. So if you are ready to take your sample and you're at whatever day you are, so make sure you're using a small clean cup or a glass. You can use like a shot glass or a little short kind of taster glass or a whiskey glass or whatever you feel like using. So what you want to do first is you want to pull just a very small sample out, just a little pull, and you'll see kind of just some sludge come out, and that is, sediment. That is the byproduct of fermentation from the yeast eating the sugars in your beer. It creates trub or trub, however people want to pronounce it. It's one of those things everyone pronounces differently. I say trub. So what you want to do is, if you take that sample, you want to discard that. You don't want to taste that. It's not going to taste good. It's going to be kind of slushy good. It's not going to tell you if your beer's done or not. It's not going to be that enjoyable. So I'll be in there. So once you take that sample, you'll dump that out, rinse your glass, so you get that flavor, that taste, all that gunk out of there. And then what you want to do is then pour another sample back into that glass. And then you'll just have beer. You'll be able to test it and look at it and see how clear it is. And give it a test. Remember, all you want it to taste like is flat beer. It's going to be warm. It's not going to be carbonated. So it's not going to be used to like commercial beers that you're used to drinking, because it has no CO2 in it and it's not cold. So it's just like flat beer. So I think it's a little different taste that some people have trouble discerning that it's, or deciding that it's done or not, because you're not used to that flavor. So after you brew a few times, you'll get used to kind of knowing when you get that flat beer taste. But for the most part, you can pretty much tell me it tastes like beer just without the CO2 and the cold. So if you have flat beer, you're good to go. You're good to bottle, and you start the bottling process, sanitizing everything, and you're ready to rock and roll. If your beer is sweet, then you want to leave it for a little bit longer in the fermenter. And you always want to go by what the instructions that are on the website that corresponds with whatever you're brewing. So they're pretty straightforward for the most part. So if you're brewing like any refill, we have you taste test at 10 days, and if it's done, you're ready to bottle. If not, let it go to 14 days and then bottle then. It's pretty straightforward. Recipes are either 14 or 21 days tested, and if it's not done, then you go to 17 or 24 days. You can brew for total up to 3 weeks. It's not necessary. And we set these instructions up so we know when these things are done. That's why we do ample testing here to see when things are done fermenting and when there's really no reason to leave it any longer. That last week of from 14 days to 21 days on a refill isn't going to alter the flavor of your beer all that much. You're going to get more alteration in the final taste of your beer by conditioning the bottles a little longer than you will leaving it in the fermenter longer. You need another just little tip for you. You don't want to leave it in the fermenter for longer than 24 days, because after that point, you risk the yeast start kind of eating itself. It creates some weird off flavors. It's not good to taste. All right. So the kind of part we don't talk about a lot is, when you get to that point, you taste your beer, and you're like, oh, it's sweet, I need to wait a little bit longer. You want to sanitize your spigot, because you have beer run through there, so you want to make sure that now it's going to sit again for a few days. The beer that's just going to dry out, so you don't want it to get infected again. or risk getting infected. So there are a few different ways you can do this. If you have some extra like no rinse cleanser, or you use like Star San at your house, or for your brewing, you can use that. You can basically mix them up. You can either use a spray bottle and kind of spray it up into the nozzle of the spigot, or you can mix up in a cup and kind of just dip it up into the spigot. Just make sure that you're kind of getting the spigot submerged. So, up in a tilt. That was my graphic animation for you guys there. So either way that will work. You can also use like a Q-tip if you mix it up. I've used that when I brew at home and on the office. I'll just use a Q-tip and mix some solution up and dip the Q-tip in there, run it a few times. I do a few different Q-tips just to make sure that you're getting it clean and getting all that gunk out of there. So when you use those, if you don't have those things, you can also use some household stuff. So you can use vodka or peroxide to clean it. That will also kill any germs or anything that could harbor germs that's in there. Basically, you use the same process: spray bottle, Q-tip, cup dip, anything that works good. Plus side, if you're using vodka, you can take a shot afterwards, and then you're good to go. So then it makes up for your beer not being ready, but a shot of vodka. So there's also some other things that you can do to know when your beer is done besides the taste test, and I think we'll make this into another episode by itself. As I was writing this out, just getting into all the different ways you can test into fermentation is a lot, so I think that'd be a good episode and very important one to kind of let you guys know all the tools that are out there. So you can use a hydrometer, some on the website. Basically, when checking for fermentation with a hydrometer, if you take a reading and take another reading 24 hours later, if the reading has not changed, your beer is done. Again, you want to still sanitize your spigot after you take that reading to make sure you're good to go. Also, things like you can use under a refractometer. We have a tilt that we use in the office, kind of a little Bluetooth connected thing that floats around in your beer. I think I've seen some people in the group that use those. So you can use those. And then a pro tip that I got from Ashley before we started was that she recommends putting something underneath your fermenter. So if you have your LBK and you place something underneath it here, you can just prop it up a little bit like that. I mean, not that steep of an incline, but prop it up. That's going to help all that shrub settle more to the back of your fermenter instead of settling on the spigot. So that way, when you go to pull your sample, you're just getting mostly beer. You don't have to worry about possibly any trouble or anything out of that. So that's going to wrap it up today. Appreciate you guys joining us. We do post these videos on our YouTube page, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and our Mr.Beer.com/blog page. On our blog, we also post the transcripts of the videos for the most part. I know I missed a few in there. If you guys have questions or concerns, check out our blog. There's a lot of information in there. There's a search function there. You can search for topics. There's posts going all the way back for the last 5, 6, 7 years. A lot of information in there. It's very important relative where you can learn a lot of knowledge, and we're going to start kind of queuing that up a little bit and making sure that everyone seeing all stuff that's in there. So we've done a lot over the years to make sure that all that stuff is in there. So if you enjoyed the video, you can give it a like, a share, comment, tell a friend, welcome a friend into home brewing. That's all what we're all about, is sharing, home brewing, making great beer. So I appreciate you guys joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you're brewing some beer, drinking some beer, just having a good time, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.